And when that happens, business models change, and how people do things are going to change. I think that the model for developing facilities, for example, in a city, is going to change. Before, the taxpayers may not have liked it too much, but they didn't object too much about, say, the city underwriting the building of a new stadium. I think those days are going to go and change because people have different priorities now, and they'll be able to better articulate that.
What do you think of the chance of the United States restaging Olympics in 2024?
I think that the chances are better now than they were last year. They've reached agreement with the IOC on revenue share.
Okay.
And that was the big thing. But I don't know that the U.S. is even going to put up a city for 2024, the Summer Games. Maybe they will, maybe they won't.
Okay.
There's still going to be some competition for these things.
Yes.
But everyone's got different strategies. With the exception of Australia, have there been Olympics south of the equator? Well, now there will be in Rio de Janeiro, but before then it was only in Australia. So the question is, what about Africa?
Yes.
I think that South Africa probably stands a pretty good chance if they were to be serious about it, because they successfully did the World Cup.
Okay. Yeah, I'm coming to that actually because we are looking at, we launched the campaign for the first ever Africa Olympics. You know, the South Africa World Cup that you mentioned, when Mandela became the president in 1994, then in 1999, with Christine, his presidency, and also honor him with the All-African Games. It was at the Tsumani village of stars, very close to Johannesburg Stadium, that I profess that the facility you have built in order to host the All-African Games, why don't you use it to chase and bring the world to honor Mandela? Say, what is that? Say, let's do the World Cup. That's the card I presented to Dr. Rosani this morning. And it became a reality. Now, the first Africa Olympics, we are looking for 2028. But we want to make history, America and Africa. Use this to bridge the gap.
I'll tell you what you probably should do, look at a strategy, because it's very seldom that a city wins on the first time out going for the Olympic bid. So if I were the person in charge of the strategy, I would look at putting forward a bid for 2024 just to get the experience and to go through the process of assembling the bid, meeting with the selection commission, to go to the venues where you have to sell the product. So I'm talking about Sports Accord, or even this week in Lausanne are the ANOC meetings.
Yes.
And so, for instance, at the ANOC meetings in Lausanne, the organizing committee or the bid committee from Istanbul were there saying, hey, wait a minute, it's cool, you know. But you have to go to those venues, you have to network with the people, you have to meet the players, and so you have to become in their consciousness. And so that's why I'm saying if my real target was 2028, I would be working on a 2024, just to get your fingers in the mix.
Okay. What role do you think you will play in this particular bid and to make this dream a
What role will what?
What role would you like to play?
What role would I like to play? Spectator.
A VIP spectator. Strategist.
No, to me it's all very, very interesting.
Okay.
One of the things I did in Gabon was where you're talking about the legacy of the facilities after the World Cup in South Africa. It's very, very important, you see, and that's a part of any Olympic bid.
Okay.
You have to have a legacy. No one wants to have a repeat of what happened in Athens, where they built all of those facilities and now most of them are lying empty. It was like a huge investment in infrastructure, but there wasn't a long-term payoff. And the way there's a long-term payoff is that you have to have a sport industry in the country. You have to have competitive leagues, and not only football, but also basketball and, other team sports, cities competing against each other. And even if the competition initially is at a lower level, you have to crawl before you walk, and you have to walk before you run. And that's how you do it, is you go through that evolutionary process over time. And so, for instance, in Gabon had just held the Cup of Africa Nations last year.
Yes, African Cup of Nations.
Yeah, so I went to Libreville and met with some of the officials in the sport and worked with the, it's called ANGT, which was their public works department. So what to do with the stadium now that it's done. And obviously one of the answers there is take care of it. You better have good maintenance. But the second part to it is that you have to build activity.
Yes.
Because activity brings activity.
Exactly. You're right.
So, and how do you build activity? So that one of the things would be, for instance, to build a sport commission, whose function is to look at the international calendar and to see what events can we host, to bring the activity here.
Okay. Well, I know that you have traveled vastly. You have been to so very many countries, and now you are working with the authority in Gabon. In this morning, when I was delivering a lecture, I said, Africa matters. Africa is the future. With your experience, how far will you believe that statement, and how will you justify within yourself that this is the true statement that is happening, and what United States should do in order to take this serious?
I think that what you said is absolutely accurate. I mean, Africa is really the last developmental frontier on the planet. I'm so sorry to say that in many respects Africa has lagged the rest of the world, in development. And so they have farther to go now today to catch up. And so when we talk about development, I think that there is an awful lot of work to be done. And so in a very real sense, that is the last frontier. But Africa is very rich in people, culture, resources. It's unfortunate, but Africa has also been the victim of bad government for a long time. But I see change. Change is happening. I think that Ali Bongo is a very, very good case or an example of that in Gabon.
Okay.
Omar Bongo used the old style of governance, I think.
Yes.
Okay, but his son Ali is really trying to change, the way that things are done. So it is more of a representative democracy, that resources are used more carefully. And when you do that, you're going to have a better result, ultimately.
Okay.
The fact that there was a real interest there, I have the stadium now, so how can I leverage this to get a better return, shows that he has an interest in these things.
Okay.
And that extends beyond sport, but to other areas as well.
Okay.
So I think that the future for Africa will be bright.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. The United States Sports Academy, which you are now the vice president,
Mhm.
is living up to expectation.
Well, thank you.
And you are doing a project in Malaysia.
Yes,
One student, one sport.
yes.
That is the mandate. Now you are working in Africa, in Gabon now. We have West Africa, we have East Africa, we have Central, we have North, we have South.
Mhm.
The ideology is to now equip sports academy in all these regions.
Mhm.
Do you see it possible?
Of course it's possible. I think that there is a approach that can be taken where if nations can band together to work and pool resources, you're going to get much further along
Yes.
than if everyone tries to do it independently.
Right.
And I think that there is a real need for sport education.
Yes.
Because here's the thing, is that here in the West, for example, we have a very well-developed sport industry.
Yes.
And so we know what works within reason and what doesn't.
Okay.
And so hopefully, the resources that we have ought to be able to help
Okay.
the academies or the schools of sport in Africa
Mm.
to say, okay, here's best practices
Yes.
that have worked. Here are the pitfalls that can hold you back.
Mm.
And so you want to see if you can learn from the good and avoid the bad. So I think that to the extent then that you apply that philosophy wider,
Right.
okay, you're going to be able to more effectively use limited resources.
That's true.
So,
Well, finally, I want to say this one because when I was delivering my lecture this morning, I looked at the vision of Dr. Sandwich,
mhm.
and I said, vision is greater than ambition. We have seen so many legacy laid by people, and we have seen the offspring
Mhm.
of the people who are actually the pioneer living up to standard. You have dabbled into and created interest in what your father instituted, and you believe in it, and you are
Mhm.
taking it to another level. There are so many people in the world today who say, oh, this is his own vision. This is my vision. This is where I want to go. And the legacy crumbled.
Mhm.
And some did not take that legacy. But you believe in what your dad has done because you believe that it's liberating the world. What is the advice you have for other folks who will fall into your shoe?
Well,
What is your advice in this area?
we talk about vision,
Yes.
and a vision is most effective when it is a shared vision.
That's right.
So to the extent that, here, and a vision is more than what you see, it's a bedrock kind of a philosophy,
Yes.
okay? It is a mixture of ambition.
Yes.
It is a mixture of perseverance, okay? So if you take all of those attributes and you put them together, to the extent that you can share that. You remember the old fable
Yes.
about the father and the kids,
Yes. Yeah.
okay? And he said, here's what? Here is a bundle of sticks.
Yes.
Try and break the bundle.
Yes.
And none of them could do that.
Yes.
So that's the shared,
Okay.
But then when he handed each one of them an individual the stick, every one of them could break it.
Mhm.
So the point there is, so long as you remain unified and you have something good that can be shared, then you're going to be successful. Then the ambition that is a part of that mix will go ahead.
Okay. Well, one final question. When you look at this house, this gallery, this museum, and this academy, you see the image of stars, celebrities, history makers. But some utilize their resources wisely, while some became a celebrity, and at the end of the day, they did not really live up to the standard or expectation. In the sports management, and also from your experience, what's your advice for those celebrities who rise up today and how they can sustain their integrity and dignity and also the fame? What's your advice?
Well, you know, it is very, very sad that through the history of sport,
Yes.
you have sports celebrities that were at the very pinnacle.
Right.
And they earned a lot of money. But all too often, the stars got there through their physical ability. But unfortunately, while they may have discipline in the sports, that they would go ahead and work, practice, condition, do these things, they didn't have the discipline on the other side.
Yes.
You know, the discipline of self-preservation.
Yes.
And so if the resources are squandered, you know, from either high living or just bad advice or lack of training or what have you, that the result is very bad, because then they wind up with nothing. So I guess the main story there is that you want to become informed, and that is really part of a function of education.
Okay.
And the second part to that is that you want to surround yourself with good people instead of deadbeats.
That's right.
You know, so you want people that can help you.
That's right.
You know,
People
so
that break you.
yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay. Well, viewers, this is an interview that has really taken place here at the Sports Academy, United States Sports Academy in the state of Alabama. It's very, very good opportunity for us to sit down and talk with the Vice President of the Pioneer, the visionary. He's a well-traveled person, and is well-informed, and is well-equipped to take the dream and the vision of Dr. Usandi to another level. You heard from the horse's mouth. Well-experienced, well-educated, is also blessed with a lot of wisdom. He said vision is greater than ambition, and is ready to now liberate the world with what legacy his father has laid down. I want to thank you for this particular interview. Brief interview. It's impromptu, but it's very purposeful.
Sure.
And
with no prep.
But it's the best interview. I want to congratulate you in your endeavor, and I want to say that the best is yet to come, because you are already grounded and well prepared. And you are disciplining yourself, I could see, because this is the backbone of success. If you are disciplined, you have self-confidence. And from there, you can prepare yourself to the zenith of your calling. I want to thank you so much, and I want to congratulate you.
Good enough.
Yes.
Works for me.
Yes.
All righty.